Well, okay, everybody. This is Michael Watson. It is the 12th of January, 2017. I've been struggling with the computer today and noticing all the glare on my glasses, so I thought I was going to try to do something about that. But when I considered doing the call without glasses, I realized that I would have to, hold my beverage in my hands, and I thought that that wasn't going to work. So I'm doing it this way. We have been talking for the last several weeks with some really superstars from IACT IMDHA as part of this presenters series. And we're all getting geared up for the Hypno Expo 2017, catching the wave in Daytona Beach on May 19th, 20th, and 21st. And there are pre and post conferences associated with that conference. And the folks that are offering those pre and post conferences are the people that we've been having these interviews with. So for any details about the conference itself or to register for the conference, by the way, we now have a URL that simplifies things. You can go to hypnoexpo2017.com and find out everything that you want to know about the conference. So that's a shortcut and a nice way in there. In a few minutes, we're going to be talking with Sherry Gilbert and about transpersonal hypnosis and the program that she's going to be offering at the Hypno Expo. And it's a 2-day program, which will be on the 17th and the 18th of May. But before we talk to Sherry, I've got just a couple of announcements and some information that will help you get the best out of the call. If you have joined us on your computer, here's a little information that might help. You are probably in speaker view if right now what you're seeing is primarily me and then maybe some small screens with other people on them. That's probably the best place to be. And typically in speaker view, you can be set up, and most of you probably are. I understand for some people that there's a little button in the upper right-hand corner that lets you make this change. But if you're in speaker view, it's nice if you can see something that lets you change to active speaker view, I think is what it says on some screens. If you're in active speaker view, what will happen is, as Sherry and I are talking back and forth to one another, the screen will change depending on who is speaking, and that's quite useful. So right now, if you will look down at the bottom of your screen, for most of you, there are a couple of controls. One of them is says participants, and if you were to just click on that little thing that says participants, you'll get a box that has names of people that are on the call and all that sort of stuff, and your name will be there somewhere as well. And down at the bottom of that box, there is an option to raise your hand. As a matter of fact, David Pearson has just raised his hand, and because he has done that, I'm gonna I've actually put it down, but David, I'm gonna unmute you for a second. Did you have a question?
Absolutely not. It was one of those things that happens when you don't realize what you're doing.
Oh, good. And now the nice thing is, though, that you realize what you're doing and you know how to raise your hand. So when we get to the Q&A part, you can just pop your hand up if you have a question.
Thank you, Michael.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for helping us. And for those of you who are on the telephone, by the way that you raise your hand is by pressing *9, and then we'll know that you have a question, and I'll open up the line for you to be able to ask at that particular time. So I think that's about all we need to discuss. For those of you who'd like to share and who just don't enough, there will be a recording of this program online tomorrow. I post it on the IACT IMDHA forum, and the association also posts it on the Telecaster and under the conference area of the website as well. The way to get to those is just to go to the page of the association, and at the top of that page, you'll see a little tab that says Media. And if you click on Media, right underneath that is the Telecaster. And go to the Telecaster, and you'll see a list of all of the programs that we've had, and you'll be able to play them back. Also, if you click on Conference, similarly, instead of Media, you'll see a listing that says Teleconferences. And clicking on that will basically do the same thing for you. It will give you a list of what's available, and you can click and listen or watch the previous teleconferences or the webinars that we've had so far. So it's all out there for you. What else can I tell you? If for some reason or another, when these things are posted tomorrow, if you just can't get them at all, I'm happy to help. You can just send me a note at flhypno, that's think Florida Hypnosis, and you've got it, flhypno@outlook.com. And I will be happy to send you a link to the recording. So, did you know that you can get CEUs for listening to this call? That's probably a cool thing. So as you're accumulating your CEUs, again, all you have to do is to go to the association's website, either IACT or IMDHA, whichever one you are a member of, if you are a member of either, both if you are a member of both. And when you log in with your member ID, there's a screen that comes up that gives you an opportunity to enter CEUs. So let them know that you were on the webinar for the presenter series, and you get an hour for an hour. So it's an hour-long call. You get one CEU each time you listen, and make sure and collect it. You wouldn't want to miss it or forget about it. This series of talks goes on every Sunday night for a total of 15 weeks, all the way till the 23rd of April. Always here at the same time and place, at the same number. You can use the link that you've been using all this week for the call next week as well. Next week, we'll be talking to Ralph Olaco about ultra-depth hypnosis, and that's really going to be exciting. We're looking forward to that. So finally, it is time for me to introduce our guest. And our guest tonight is Sherry Gilbert. And one of the things that I have got to tell you about Sherry is she's not like most hypnotists, because she really is a humble young lady. What I notice is I've got long biographies for everybody, and Sherry just sends in a couple of little facts. She's been a hypnotherapist since 2001. She's a faculty member for the Southwest Institute of the Healing Arts, by the way, which has, I looked her up on the web, by the way, so Google, you can find out even more about her. But she has a real passion for teaching and for mentoring, and was last year's recipient of IAC's Hypnotist of the Year Award. And she's coming to us tonight from Arizona. So, hi, Sherry. Welcome to the call. Tell me oh, you know what? I just realized when I muted everybody, I have muted my guest. So give me a second. I can fix that immediately. Let me see. There we are. Hi, Sherry.
Hi. Great to be heard.
Yeah, well, it will certainly make a difference, won't it, in terms of now, if you were teaching nonverbal inductions, perhaps we could have.
There you go.
You could have
Wrong topic, though, unfortunately.
Well, we're just delighted to have you with us tonight. And I tell you what, I am especially delighted because your topic area is something that's near and dear to me as well. And for those of you who are just listening, just consider for a minute what has 13 letters. And by the way, that's worth a whole lot of points on the Scrabble board and begins with trans. Because I'll bet you that Sherry can tell us about that. The big word, of course, is transpersonal. And that's where we need to start. So when we're talking about transpersonal hypnosis, transpersonal hypnotherapy, transpersonal sessions, what does that mean? Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah, it's a big word that just means that you're getting to have a conversation with your client's subconscious. Sometimes I'm talking to their subconscious. Sometimes I'm asking their body questions. It just creates a conversation between the hypnotherapist and the client's subconscious, so that you're narrowing in on what's really going on.
Okay. And you've been doing this for a while, is it, I would imagine?
Yeah, since the beginning. I know a lot of hypnotherapists, when they first come out of school, are more comfortable working with scripts. I've always been more comfortable working where I'm actually communicating with the person's subconscious. Here's the secret to it, really. Why you want to do this session this way is that I don't have to have all the answers. I love that. I just have to be good at asking questions, which I'm really very, very good at, because the client subconscious always has the answers. I just have to ask questions until we get to the answer, and then help the client resolve whatever the issue is.
I really appreciate that, and we see on the groups and stuff so often when somebody gets a new client, they're scrambling for a script or something, and they want to know. I've got a client who has condition X, whatever it is, and does anybody know what to do about that? And it occurs to me that that's a terrible burden to have an answer for or what to do about every single thing that could come in. You need to be an expert about everything. So why is it, and I think you kind of answered the question already, but it was one that I was going to ask you, what is it that's particularly important about transpersonal sessions?
Well, you kind of just touched on it yourself right there. How many times have you talked to a new client on the phone or by email, and they said that they're coming in to work on issue X, and then they come in and that isn't really what they want to work on at all? As you're having a conversation with them, you discover really we need to work on maybe Y and Z. Well, if I'm relying on scripts, I haven't pulled the right scripts, and now I'm scrambling, and how stressed am I going to be? But even more importantly is that what the client verbally, consciously is telling you that they want to work on may not have any relation to what actually needs to be worked on. If they always knew what they needed on a conscious level, they wouldn't need us as often as they do. The problem is that the subconscious knows what they really need. They just know the small percentage of it that they're aware of on a conscious level. So working transpersonally allows me not to work with what they tell me they want to work with, but what they really need to work with. And that's where the sessions become really profound and life-changing.
Nice. Now, do you do transpersonal work exclusively, or do you use scripts for some things and transpersonal work for other things, or how does that go?
Yeah, I use transpersonal the majority of the time, but there are clients who really don't like to verbally respond, or maybe aren't even comfortable with ideomotor during the session. So in those cases, I will work, I'm going to say scripted. I never have a sheet of paper in front of me.
Right.
And I think probably a lot of people who say they do scripted sessions are the same way. You have things that you like to do in the session, and you've done them enough that you get really comfortable with it. So it's really easy to make it unique and individualized. But it's a story that you're telling, or it's an experience that you're guiding them through that's structured and that is predictable for you as the practitioner.
Okay. Do you think that all hypnotherapists should be using a transpersonal approach then?
I do. I think they need to at least have it available to them under their belt. And it may not be what they do the majority of the time, but to have that skill set in case you need it, I think makes the world of difference in how successful you
are. Is there any particular, clients tend to sort of fall into different types of clients, different ways of responding. And I think you sort of said this about, say, ideomotor and things like that. Is there anything else in terms of, who works really well with transpersonal approaches in terms of clients, and who, anybody that they really aren't a good choice for?
It's probably easiest to talk about when it's not a good option for a client, because I think those are a smaller group. Where I don't use a transpersonal session is if, like I said earlier, if I have a client that really is uncomfortable verbally responding, doesn't have a particularly strong ideomotor, so it's hard for me to understand what they're trying to communicate to me. There are clients, I do work a lot with young clients, late teens, early 20s, and one of the benefits of working with hypnotherapy with someone in a younger age is that sometimes they don't really want to talk to you about what the problem is. They, unlike the clients that come in and want to share and talk to me and talk through all of their things, they just come in and want to close their eyes and do a session. And they're not willing to really be comfortable talking to me eyes open. So they're not going to be comfortable talking to me eyes closed either. And so for those kind of clients, I stay away from transpersonal the majority of the time.
Okay. And so there might be some clients you're saying that this maybe isn't the best thing for. On the other hand, or the easiest thing for might be another way to say it. Do you find similarly with hypnotherapists that some hypnotherapists just really kind of love this and are ready to do this, and others really sort of avoid it or hold back from doing it?
Yeah. The reason that I put this course together is that when I've been teaching other courses, when I get into the transpersonal or interactive pieces in the training, I because I didn't realize how many don't actually have the comfort of doing this, that that really a class needed to be put together and make it really simple, because it feels like this kind of big scary thing. If I'm just doing a scripted session, I'm in charge. I know what's going to happen from A to Z, from client closing their eyes to client opening their eyes. And there's a safety and a comfort in that, I think, for a lot of hypnotherapists. So what I want to do is break that down into tiny little pieces and make it really safe and comfortable for them to do it. Just like we tell a client, if a client comes in and they have a really big goal that they want to accomplish, we don't just do one step to get to that goal. You break it up into small, easily achievable steps so that you gain your confidence and gain successes so that you can reach that end zone of being able to do whatever the goal is, in this case, transpersonal sessions. But it's just, I think it's a fear of not being able to control the situation.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, that's one of the things about, as you and I were saying, with scripts, you've got to find scripts or gather them or something for everything that there is, and that can be challenging to people. On the other hand, once you've got them, then I think that there are some hypnotherapists that may take great comfort in that they've got something. I can just say these magic words and do this thing. And gosh, this is an invitation to something that you and I may see as being ultimately a whole lot easier to do, a whole lot more natural to do.
Much easier.
And
it looks scary if you haven't had the training for it, or you haven't had the experiences with it, but ultimately it makes your life so much easier.
All right. So tell me about your class. What maybe a little bit about what's it like, sort of first, in terms of what's going to happen, or for people that are interested in attending it, what can they expect to see or do in your?
I'm a fan of taking people through things whenever you're learning something new in tiny bite-sized pieces. So the first thing that I like to teach is, what do you do to make it safe and comfortable for yourself? What are the things that you're afraid of? And how do we overcome those fears? Because the fears are valid and real. But there's some real things that you can do to feel safe and comfortable. So first thing, I'm just going to have everybody go through what I've accumulated is the list of things that people are concerned about. A big concern people have is that, what if the client says something? I ask the client subconscious a question, gives me an answer, and the answer doesn't make any sense to me at all. And that seems really scary. And the truth is, it's going to happen. I don't think I have a day that it doesn't happen. And that's actually the fun and exciting part once you know how to handle that. So I'll teach everybody what I use as bridge phrases that allow you to just sit for a beat and see what we want to do with things. So I just use a series of bridge phrases like, that's a good answer. Why don't we just sit with that and see what else comes to you? Let's just sit with that for a moment and see how that feels. I'm going to ask your subconscious to clarify as I count down from 5 to 1. What other information you need to know about that answer? So there's a whole series of bridge phrases that you can use to just give yourself, if nothing else, give yourself a moment to think, okay, now what am I going to do with that answer? The second thing is you can always switch. If you get stuck, you're like, wow, I don't know where to go with this, or I'm not getting good responses. You can switch. If you're very reliant on a script, keep 2 or 3 scripts. I use a clipboard to write my notes on. You could easily slide 2 or 3 scripts underneath your note-taking paper and have those available. The client's eyes are closed. Just pull one out and switch back over to that. It's absolutely fine. I often switch gears. If I've intended to do, let's say parts therapy, for instance, and the client throws me a curveball and does something different, I'm just going to switch and go with what the client is giving me. You don't have to have a plan and follow it through all the way to the end. So be comfortable switching. And one of the first ways of getting comfortable with switching is have some scripts underneath. You can pull one out and just say, you know what, let's step back from that. And for now, I'm just going to have you take a couple of deep breaths, relax as deep as you like. You won't need to respond to me for a while, and just then switch over to the script.
Mm-hmm.
So you can totally do that. Another fear that I talk about is that people are afraid, what if the client doesn't answer, if there's just nothing that comes? And that occasionally, it's not common, but occasionally does happen. And typically it's one of two things. It's that I didn't ask the right question. And remember I said I don't have to have the answers, I just have to have good questions. So I need to ask another question. The other thing is that occasionally the client isn't as deep as they need to be. And so they're getting a little fight between the conscious and the subconscious, and they're not sure how to answer. So I just stop and take them through a deepener and then come back to it. Or again, you have the option of just switching to a scripted session. So once I get you to a place where you feel really safe and comfortable, then we're going to break this out into layers and practice, practice, practice. It's going to be a lot of hands-on. You'll learn how to do a layer. I will demonstrate how to do a layer, and then everybody will get a chance to practice it. And the way I have people practice, you can either actually take the person you're practicing with into hypnosis if they're comfortable with working on a particular issue they have. And if not, I'll have set up so that you can do some role playing with it. That works fine too. So no one has to do anything in class they're not comfortable with. So if it's an area they don't really want to be hypnotized and work on in a classroom situation, that's fine. We'll do some role playing with that. And so just break it up into these really small pieces and get lots and lots of practice. My goal is that when everybody goes home from the conference, they're super excited to just start doing all kinds of transpersonal sessions.
Well, and isn't that the key? You know, somewhere along the line, you've got to actually put the rubber on the road, as they say, you know, and go for it. So good. And we know you to be an inspiring and enthusiastic lady. So I trust that you will send them out in that way. Is there any given the fact that some of our members are brand new to hypnosis, some have never even had a certification training yet, you know, but they're associated or they come to the conference or whatever it is. Would you recommend this more for people that have some advanced skills, or people at the beginning, or all over the map?
All over the map. All over the map. It's because of the way that I created the layers to this, I'm going to walk through very gently. And if someone's really new to hypnotherapy, they may feel like they're only going to go home and do the first 2 layers that I've taught, and that's fantastic. Go home and do those first 2 layers and get really good at them and really confident at them. And then when you're ready, add the 3rd layer. And when you're ready, add the 4th layer. So, you know, it's really designed so that if you're still taking classes, you're going to get something good out of it. If you've been practicing for 20 years but aren't super confident with doing transpersonal sessions yet, you're still going to get something out of it. So anybody's going to get something out of it and walk away feeling a little bit more confident.
Nice. Now, because you have been doing this for a while, it wasn't a question that I had told you I was going to ask you, and I don't want to put you on the spot. But
go ahead.
I'm just wondering if you've got a story that you can tell us about using this with a client, and you know, and how it worked.
Yeah, I actually have a couple stories. I'll tell you my favorite. And I tell this story when I teach. So my apologies for those of you that probably end up hearing this twice. It's just such a great story. It illustrates one of the things I like best about doing a transpersonal session, in that we can really zoom in on the real issue for the client. And I could make a leap of logic and assume that this part of their story is what we need to work on. So I had a coaching client. She did not start off as a hypnotherapy client. She was a little bit nervous about hypnosis. So she'd come and done a few coaching sessions with me. And so I got to where I knew an awful lot about her life story. And her life story was such that if you watched a movie or read a book with her life story, you would think that the writer went way over the top. Nobody could have survived the amount of trauma that this woman had experienced, and raised very dirt poor, um, in a third world country, had many sexual assaults. I mean, just the things that went on in her life were just heartbreaking. And when she was finally ready to do a hypnotherapy session, we were going to do it around being powerful, because the word that she used all the time was that she was powerless. And it's a word that I would like to just wipe out of the English language. So we did the session around going back to what we needed to heal, release, or resolve, so that she could take her power back. And honestly, if I had been guiding this myself, I would have expected to go back to a particular incident when she was 5, I believe, and she had been assaulted in a church. And for me, my brain, I was certain this is where we were going. And instead, we went back to what seemed like a very innocuous, very benign experience that had happened with her younger sister when she was 4 years old. I actually have it videotaped, and I show it in the class. It's such a small thing, but it is what set her up to feel powerless. And she had recreated that event in so many ways with her family, with her husband, just again and again and again. So one session around this and letting her subconscious tell me the truth about where we needed to go. And she went back to school. This is a few years ago now, so she has finished her GED. She has finished her bachelor's. They have gone into marriage counseling and changed the dynamic of their marriage. She is successfully running her own business. It was just life-changing. She did come back and do some other sessions later on, but I didn't see her for 8 months after that session because she was too busy going back and reclaiming her life. And if I had done a scripted session or even a transpersonal session based on what I thought the problem was, I would have missed the boat entirely and not helped her create this really life-changing situation. Do we have time for another story?
Yeah.
Okay. I love stories.
Yeah,
for me as a teacher, I tell a lot of stories because I think it helps to illustrate points. So the other story that I like to tell is almost the reverse of this. I had a client come in, and he was an engineer, very left brain. And he came in and he said to me, I eat healthy at breakfast, I eat healthy at lunch, I eat healthy at dinner, but I'm home for about an hour and a half by myself in the afternoon before my wife and my children get home. And I cannot stop eating. And there doesn't have to be anything good to eat in the house. I have eaten dry spaghetti, uncooked dry spaghetti, because there was nothing else to chew on. And so now in my head, I'm going through all of these, things that I should be doing. Does he have pica? Is it, what's going on? And then he said to me, can't you just flip a switch? Well, I didn't have a script for flipping the switch, but I know how to flip a switch, and he's an engineer, and I raised an engineer, so I understand how the brains work. So we had, again, a life-changing session, not doing any of the things that I originally went to, but I just went in and let him decide where the switch was, how it needed to be flipped, how could he fix it so that it would never, be flipped the other way again. He did this whole complex thing with it. The whole thing took 15 minutes and done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was such a successful session that for about 6 months after that, I had this whole stream of engineers coming into my practice. It was fantastic.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So with all those engineers, I'll bet that the railroads are running much better than they ever did before. Yeah. Thanks, Sherry. We love the stories. They really are the thing, I think, that tells us so much more than a bunch of data about how it's supposed to work and explanations. Nothing's quite as good as examples. So it's about that time already when we could begin to to take questions if anybody has them. So I want to, and just to anticipate, this group tends to be a little bit shy sometimes, and they need some encouragement. So we will encourage them, and let them know that in order to ask questions, again, if you will just pop open that participants window, and again, you can find it at the bottom of your screen. It says participants. You'll see a list with kind of the names of all the people that are on the call, or some identifying information. But at the very bottom of that screen, one of the options is raise hand. It either is, you should be able to see that there. If you can, click on that, and that will raise your hand, and we'll know that you have a question. The other way to go about it, if you're on the telephone, you can let us know. You can raise your hand by pressing *9, and then we will know that you have a question. And last but not least, some of you have found the chat box, which you can find at the bottom of the window. If you've got the chat box open, you can just write right in there where it says to type your message. Just write, "I have a question," and we'll know. And then I will open up your microphone, and you'll be able to talk to us. So many choices. And they're all rushing to find the controls. There we are. So in fact, Pedro has a question. So Pedro, I am going to unmute you now, and feel free. Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
Sherry,
Pedro.
Hi, thank you so much for the information.
You're welcome.
My question is, what is your favorite marketing tool to get clients and to fill up seminars to show them your information?
I have for my seminars or for my hypnotherapy clients?
Both.
Okay. So to get clients into my practice, I have two. I do a lot of public speaking. I will speak at any support group meeting, team management meeting, in any meeting at all that regularly brings in speakers. It's a great way. What I usually do is I'll have a little sign-in sheet, and then I'll pass around a little thing asking them to give me some feedback, what did they like about the presentation, was there anything that they have questions about, and so I'm able to gather up their email address. Someone wins a door prize, and then I can include them in my monthly newsletter, where I send out information about what's going on in my practice. But then I also offer a free event once a month that they can come to. It's called Wine and Wisdom. I serve wine, obviously, and snacks. And then I have, sometimes I'm the speaker, sometimes I have somebody, a professional in a complementary profession, come in and talk. I get a lot of clients from there as well. And then my other thing that I like to do for getting new clients is I'm a member of a networking group called BNI. And the last 2 years, the first year I was a member, it brought me, after my expenses of being a member, it brought me about $20,000 in revenue to my practice. And last year when I renewed, it brought me about $35,000 in revenue to my practice.
Sorry, did you say BNI?
BNI stands for Business
BNI.
Network International.
Yeah, we have it here. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna join one of. I thought they were trying to scam you or something.
Oh, yeah. It feels a little. When I first was invited to go by a really close friend of mine, and he was talking to me about it, I was so turned off by the whole idea. I'm not a joiner of that kind of thing. But I will tell you, I have found the best friends. What they do is they put people who are in similar fields into what they call power teams. And so my health and wellness power team, I will tell you, they're the most loving, supportive, nurturing people. I had 3 clients today. All 3 of them came from resources within my power team. And they're people that I can reach out to if I need, if I have a question or I'm struggling with running like the business end of my practice or something, they're there. So not all chapters are created equal for sure, but it's been a wonderful resource for me in many ways. So explore it. As far as, I think you were also asking about marketing seminars and things like that. I find email blasts are really about the best way. I purchased an email list of hypnotherapists. I actually have two, and I send out email blasts. So I'll be sending out an email blast about this class and the conference next week, and that's usually how I promote.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. By the way, I have a question here from Judy Costantino, and she's not the only one. She arrived a little bit late. I think a couple people did and missed the beginning of your talk. And somehow or another, this big 13-letter word, they want to hear you say again just what exactly is transpersonal hypnosis.
Sure. And it's an important question because it's really the whole purpose of taking the class. So I appreciate you asking it. Transpersonal just means that we're creating a conversation between the hypnotherapist and the client's subconscious. So I'm not really running the session. I am guiding the client's subconscious to run the session.
Good. Great. Lovely. And guiding my unconscious to look at the list again and find out anybody else have some questions for Sherry. This is the most interesting talk and a most interesting topic, and perhaps they're just all deep in trance. So that means that you could use your unconscious mind to press *9. Or if you are on the computer, of course, to use that raise hand function, or just to let us know in the chat box that you have a question. We've really only got a couple minutes left, by the way. So Sherry, while we're waiting for another hand, something I wonder is, you said that you've been doing this since the beginning of your experience with hypnosis. So is this what your original training was in, or what was emphasized in your hypnosis certification training that you took to begin with?
Well, I took my my original training at Southwest Institute of Healing Arts with Linda Bennett. And, you know, the first 100 hours is the basic 100 hours that a lot of people get. It's primarily scripted and et cetera. But I was able to go on, and as I was taking additional classes, one of the classes I took was called Subconscious Intervention. And that class just my brain was just on fire. I was so excited about that class. And it was all about doing transpersonal sessions. And between that and then learning past life regression and hearts therapy with Roy Hunter and all of these. And I've been lucky enough to kind of travel all over the world and take classes. So it just put my mind on fire that this is how I want to do it. I don't want to be tied down to having a script and then finding out that I don't have the right script pulled. Do I even have a script for that? I still have tons of script books that I have to sit and leaf through occasionally just to get creative ideas, because there's so many wonderful scripts out there. So there's nothing wrong with script books. They're great. They're a great resource for many things. I just use them primarily to give me good ideas. Okay, great. Great. There is somebody else that does have a question, has their hand up in the air, and I'm afraid that I don't have a name. They're on the telephone, and I believe that the phone number begins with 1250. If you recognize that as you, I have just unmuted you, and yes.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Janet Cochran. I'm calling from British Columbia.
Hi, Janet.
Hi, Janet.
Hi. My question relates to the Hypno Expo course. So I'm unable to attend, but I'm wondering if there is another time that I could come and take the course or do it online with you.
I have not taught this particular course online. But before we started the recording today, I was talking with Michael about all of the wonderful bells and whistles that are available on Zoom. So maybe I'll get brave and look at that. What I would encourage you to do is, if there's any way to come to the expo, the Hypno Expo, please do that. And if not, send me an email, and I'll put you in my list And as I have other opportunities for you to take this course, you become aware of it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Great.
So if anyone wants to email me, you can email me at Sherry, SHERRY, at Illuma, ILLUM, as in Mary, .life. The website, my new website's not really completely functional yet, so, but the email is.
All right. Great. And we do have another question. We have Lisa Brown has her hand in the air. So Lisa, I'm unmuting you, and feel free to.
Hello. I'm curious. You mentioned hypnotherapists who use scripts. What percentage in your travels? What percentage do you of hypnotherapists have you seen that actually script? I was trained entirely without scripts, very much as you have expressed in your philosophy.
I'm so sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Is that voice behind you, Lisa?
There's no one here.
Okay, let me see if I can isolate it.
I am entirely alone.
Okay. There we go. I think we're good now.
Okay. Would you mind asking me again, please?
Oh, no problem at all. I'm curious about, in your experience in your travels, what percentage of hypnotists and hypnotherapists have you come across and found them to be dependent upon scripts?
It's interesting. I would say probably 60-40.
Really?
That's off the top of my head. Probably 60% dependent on scripts. And it does seem to depend on what part of the country I'm in or what country I'm in. So some places I'll run into people that they've had a lot of training with not using scripts. I assumed, honestly, when I first started traveling around and teaching, that everybody practiced the same way I did. So it was a surprise to me to discover a high percentage of people who didn't.
Okay, that's interesting. I was trained actually in a school in Vancouver, British Columbia. So the idea, I mean, perhaps as a type of training wheels, it might be of use. I do enjoy reading different scripts for different turns of phrase, different things, but
they're a great source of new ideas and a great source of phrasing.
Much agreed.
I love them for that. Yes.
I can't imagine doing sessions with them though, and that's probably because of my training. Because
your training helped you feel safe and comfortable.
Absolutely.
Making that leap.
Oh my goodness.
If
Absolutely. It was an absolute terror at first. But
so we need that. We need someone to kind of guide us through that process and come out the other side feeling really safe and comfortable.
I would not be the hypnotherapist I am today at all had I been dependent upon scripts. I would have hung on to those training wheels like a life rope.
It's interesting when we have the benefit of that kind of training. At least for me, I just assumed I knew I had gotten really good training at Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, but I didn't realize the stellar level of it until I was exposed to people who had as many hours of training as I had, but just had never been able to make that leap. And in some cases, it wasn't even instructed. So,
how do you help someone who is dependent upon scripts? I tutor a lot, and new hypnotherapists and students. And while I haven't, no one from my school or any of the schools that I work with are using scripts or teach with scripts, I can imagine that I may well come across some who have. And I was wondering, how do you help them let go of the script?
Step one is address all of their fears, whatever their fears are, and give them a tool that they can go back to and use. So like bridge phrases, you know, how to switch from one technique to another, have a script tucked underneath your clipboard, you know, so that they know that they have a plan of what they're going to do if they get stuck. Because that's their biggest fear, is that they're going to get stuck. So if they have something that they can do, then now it's safe for them to begin doing this in really small ways. And so that's how I start, is I have them do it in a really small way. I have them take a client or another student into hypnosis and ask the subconscious to pick a fun place, like a vacation place for them to go, and ask questions about where they are, and then come up with, I call it the big emotion dump. It's something I do the first time I work with any client, is what is the subconscious willing to dump without us looking at it? And on the fly, based on wherever the client took you, use whatever's in the environment to help them dump whatever the subconscious is willing to dump. So if they're at the ocean, maybe they're going to throw it in the ocean. If they're in a bonfire, they're, you know, in a place where there's cliffs, they can throw it off the cliff. So, you know, but they have to just come up with it on the fly. And so that's the first two steps that I go through, and just let them work with that till they get comfortable. And practice.
Nice. I need to interrupt, and I hate to do it, but we're actually past time. So I'm going to throw in one other answer to Lisa's question, just right off the top of my head. I think one of the ways to the question I think she originally asked was, how do you help people that are dependent on scripts? And my answer would be that you tell them on the 17th and 18th of May, Daytona Beach, there's going to be a lovely program offered by Sherry Gilbert at the IMDHA Hypno Expo 2017. I need to remind the folks on the call again that thanks for being here tonight, everybody. You can get this recording on the forum tomorrow, or you can get it on either of the websites for the associations under the media tab or under the conferences tab. Real easy to find, or write me at flhypno@outlook.com and I'll send you a link. Next week, we're going to be talking to Ralph Blanco about ultra-depth hypnosis. Get yourself registered for the conference, and the way to do that is to go to hypnoexpo2017.com, and they will just take care of you with whatever you need. So, Sherry, thank you so very, very much. We really
thank you. I had a blast
spending the time with us, and I'm going to do what I do at the end of every call. It might just be really cacophonous, or it may just be a lovely little tribal ritual, but I'm going to unmute everybody in just a second so they can all sort of shout out whatever goodbye. So no curse words, folks. And here we go. So good night, everyone.
Have a wonderful night.
Good night.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, Michael. Thank you.
Good night.
See you in Florida.
Thanks a lot, everybody. See you next week. And Tuesday night, if you can as well.
Thanks. Cool.